All right, it's another 49ers update in the post-Deebo Samuel era with free agency creeping up on us. The new league year begins in 8 days, and the legal tampering window opens in just 6 days. So I've got a lot in store for you, including our famous interactive exercise. Why don't we take a look at the Build Your Roster? But why don't we also take a look at some exciting 49ers options emerging? There was a little bit of news yesterday. I'm going to go through it very briefly. The Raiders are looking to trade Michael Mayer, their tight end, who was a high second-round pick, projected to be a first-rounder just a couple years ago. He's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. I think this might be a very nice pairing with George Kittle. I do expect the 49ers to be interested. We'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward. Tariq Owens, their chance that T.O.'s son emerges to pick up some of the receiving slack for the 49ers. He was on the practice squad last year and actually impressed San Francisco. Everybody seems to want to talk about Drew Dalman, the son of former 49er Chris Dalman. Drew from Salinas, went to Stanford, and the Falcons probably will not re-sign him before free agency starts because he's going to be expensive. But the 49ers have paid big for centers in the past under Kyle Shanahan. So how much of a possibility is Drew Dalman? We'll get into all that. And one more, DJ Reed. We could talk about both of the DJs. I'm talking about DJ Reed and DJ Jones, ex-49ers, both slated for free agency. The Jets are not expected to re-sign DJ Reed. We know that Robert Saleh really likes DJ Reed because he coached him back with the 49ers in 2018 and 2019, and then he made sure that he came to play for him with the Jets. And now DJ Reed's contract is set to expire in New York. San Francisco's got some needs, got some openings in the secondary at that cornerback position. DJ really was Diamaro Lenoir version 1.0. Fifth-round pick, scrappy player, versatile, could play that nickel back or could play outside cornerback. Well, Demo was the 49ers replacement for the one who got away in DJ Reed, but maybe the 49ers can bring back the one who got away by re-signing DJ Reed. That's all part of this post-Deebo 49ers update. Now, though, this has come out this morning on the San Francisco Standard. Build Your Own Roster 2025. They made an awesome animation for it. I'm going to click to enter. There you go. My Build Your Own Roster. That's the retro version of the Build Your Own Roster, the old spreadsheet. It is new and improved in this 2025 season. I've been doing this since 2021. Those of you who are uninitiated, this is your chance to build the 49ers roster under the salary cap. You think you could do better than John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan? Well, here is your chance. This is what the sheet looks like this year. There's more optionality than ever before. I'm going to actually click on it right now and tell Mike to put the link in the description. I forgot about this, Mike. Here you go. Sending that to Mike. Maybe I put this into the comment section so you guys can see it. There's the link to build your own roster. Mike is going to toss this into the description, so go ahead and check out the description. If you're on X watching, then you'll be able to just click on the X link. I've already tweeted it a couple times. But anyway, you could do a whole lot of different things. You could give Brock Purdy his extension. There you go. You can... Deebo Samuel's already been traded. That's reflected in the tool here. Brandon Ayuk, you could trade Brandon Ayuk if you want to. I'll trade Brandon Ayuk just for giggles right now. Check the box if you're going to trade him because it's going to lower the roster count. Essentially, you open this with about $54 million in salary cap space, and you've got to fill roughly 16 spots, but it all depends on how you choose to go about your business. You could save money with an extension for George Kittle. By that, I mean save money in 2025. I do encourage you to leave some cap space left over for future years. Brendel, McKivitz, you can make decisions on them. Oh, and the best part is you could decide who to sign. So who's going to be the 49ers backup quarterback? Well, we've got a bunch of options right here. You could bring back Jimmy Garoppolo to be the backup if you want. I'm not saying that's realistic, but maybe get him at $4 million for the season, backup quarterback rate. You want to bring back Sam Darnold? It might cost you 30. Might be a little expensive. And as soon as you go under 20 million in salary cap room, this lights up red. But I encourage everybody to keep the salary cap space above 20 million so the 49ers can carry it over moving forward. But that is the 49ers build your own roster. They made this awesome graphic for it. So make sure that you check it out up on the San Francisco Standard. Mike is going to be tossing that link into the description. It is already on X. So I think that, yeah, it is really cool. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I've been doing this for a few years, and this time it is more optionality than ever before. So I worked hard on it. The Standard made the graphic this year, or the animation, I should say. Kyle Victory at the Standard made a very victorious animation, as you can see here. So you can go and check that out as it plays just right above my head. That's the look at the old retro spreadsheet. I think that we made some visual improvements. Lombardi herself actually helps build the spreadsheet. She's really good with the spreadsheets. And in 2021, shortly after I met her, she was like, "Hey, I'm going to help you with your 49ers spreadsheet." Now we're married. So I guess her work on the spreadsheet was exemplary. And this year she outdid herself. She went above and beyond. And it really, I think, has gone to another level. Now, I create all the roster moves and all that, but she creates the graphics. And then Kyle Victory over at the San Francisco Standard made this little animation. So make sure to check it out. I think that it's a perfect tool at the perfect time, because the 49ers are in a transition mode right now. This is a football team that was just going for it. Cost efficiency be damned for a few years there, trying to kick down the door, win the Super Bowl. They had been frustratingly close, but no cigar. So you saw this team just fork over a ton of cash. Last offseason was probably example A. The ROI was definitely diminishing based on the 2024 results. 49ers have seen other teams go out and have a lot of success with a cost-efficient focus, namely the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, who are releasing two veteran cornerbacks, by the way, James Bradberry and Darius Slay. Remember when Deebo Samuel called James Bradberry trash ahead of the Super Bowl a couple years ago? Well, since he's getting released by Philadelphia, Washington has the chance to do the funniest thing. Yes, it'd be hilarious if Washington brought aboard James Bradberry and put his locker right next to Deebo Samuel's. But, Richard Sherman and Trent Williams got into a little scuffle back in 2012. And then Richard Sherman and Trent Williams ended up having lockers put near each other's in San Francisco. They made up for that. That was long in the rearview mirror by the time that happened in 2020. But anyway, the Eagles have moved to cost efficiency defensively. They continue pushing that way. Ended up just fine with a defense that completely shut down Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. The Rams have moved to cost efficiency. They were the lowest in defensive spend in 2024, and they made the playoffs, won a playoff game on large fuel of their defense. I mean, that unit was impressive against Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. It improved over the course of the year. They restocked it, especially that front. They restocked well with the draft picks. And, the Bills are maybe example A because they've restocked their offense on a cost-efficient basis around Josh Allen. And everybody thought, oh, this is going to be terrible. Turned out to be just fine for Buffalo. 49ers have a lot of belief in Brock Purdy, and I think that they're going to structure things as a hybrid of the way that the Eagles, the Bills, the Rams have structured it. I don't think the 49ers are going to go all in on bare bones cost efficiency for one side of the football. I think that they're just trying to trim some fat, trying to trim parts of the roster that weren't playing up to what the 49ers envisioned that they needed from particular contracts. Deebo Samuel, obviously, being one of them after the really tough 2024 season, needed that change of scenery. I think it was a good move for both sides. So I think the 49ers are going to find spots on both sides of the football where they can trim the fat, where they can find better bang for their buck and they're going to move forward that way, which makes the roster builder a really cool opportunity for you to do at this point in time, because you can do all of that yourself. So I've given you options along the defensive line to move on from all of the mid-tier level contracts that the 49ers signed last year. Floyd, Gross Matos, Malik Collins, they traded with Houston for him. Jordan Elliott, all those contracts you can take off the 49ers books. So obviously there'd be some dead money, but these were essentially one-year deals that the 49ers weren't tethered to them with 2 guaranteed years. Dead money is money that they're going to have to pay against the salary cap anyway. So all these contracts are movable for the 49ers, cuttable for San Francisco. You can restock the defensive line. Look, you can add Myles Garrett via a trade. I think that the 49ers could probably keep the cap hit at around $15 million, just like they would for Brock Purdy. How about adding Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa? We could just get ridiculous with this now. But while you did that, you probably would let go of Leonard Floyd if you had both of those guys. So you would cut Floyd, check the box, so on and so forth. I think we need to bring back Dre Greenlaw. That would cost you about $7 million, according to the roster builder. Right now, I'm already a negative in salary cap space, though. So you can see I'm being a little reckless. That's because I traded for Darnold. That's what I traded for Garrett. I signed Sam Darnold to be my backup at an outrageous price, and I signed Joey Bosa. So obviously you can't do stuff like that. So we're going to go to a cheaper backup. Let's bring back Nick Mullins to be the backup. All right, we have a little bit more salary cap space now. Mullins significantly cheaper than Sam Darnold, but we're still going to have to do some work elsewhere. We're going to have to restructure Fred Warner's deal, make him a little bit cheaper on the 2025 cap. All right, now we've got some salary cap room. Now we got $28 million. And we have at it Garrett and Bosa. So, you can dream, but also the 49ers, you have to remember, this is a long-term prospect for San Francisco. They have to look at the cap in terms of 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. That's why I try to illustrate to people that the Deebo Samuel move, where they absorb the dead money now, cannot just be viewed through the lens of the dead money they take in 2025. In fact, that's a really stupid way to look at it, because they have plenty of cap space to do whatever they want in 2025. They have backloaded all these deals. They've pushed money into the void years of the second highest rate in the league. 2025 is a wash in cap space, so you can afford to take the dead money hit for Deebo Samuel this year. It's about the future seasons where most of the Brock Purdy contract impact will be, because you're backloading the deal, where all of the deals that the 49ers have structured, Bosa, Brandon Ayuk, I could go down the list, but Deommodore Lenoir, they assigned it this year. The major cap impact of these deals is in the future. That's how the 49ers have built it, to coincide with the rising salary cap. So those are the years that you have to be careful with if you're San Francisco. Those are the years where you're going to see more restructures, but you have to pre-plan for them right now. So that's why I encouraged people to leave at least $20 million of cap space by the time that they were done building their own rosters. Because if you do that, then you're going to stand a chance to be cost efficient in future years and not under salary cap hell. You're going to do what I call surfing the salary cap wave. That is the goal for the 49ers. All right, let's get into some of the discussions here. I'm going to start with Michael Mayer. The Raiders moved on, obviously, to Brock Bowers with the Georgia product last year, catching it was over 100 passes. Brock Bowers had an awesome year, and Michael Mayer missed a few games with a non-football related issue. Was not an injury. It was never disclosed exactly what that was, but he played in 11 games last year, and the numbers were down from his rookie season. But there was a lot of hype surrounding Michael Mayer in his rookie year. And it just so happens that Mick Lombardi, who's now the 49ers quarterbacks coach, was the Raiders offensive coordinator that rookie season. So there is a 49ers connection between Michael Mayer, but between them and Michael Mayer, between their coaching staff and Michael Mayer. Mike went ahead and dug up a press conference from the Raiders of Mick Lombardi 2 years ago talking about Michael Mayer, and I think that it is worth a listen. Here you go. Mick Lombardi on the tight end who is on the trading block. This news according to Vinny Bonsignor, who covers the Las Vegas Raiders.
Specifically about Michael, I know you guys have been asking him to block a lot. That's just part of the nature of the job. But does that responsibility sometimes maybe take away from him as a weapon in the pass game, or and can we expect to see him maybe more in the pass game?
It does sometimes, for sure. He obviously is every week is going to have a big role in the running game just by the nature of his position, but we have to get involved more in the passing game. We want to get more involved in the pass game. That goes for every skill player, but since he's on the field so much, we definitely have to do that moving forward, and we're going to try to do that on a weekly basis because I think he deserves some opportunities to catch the football. He was productive in camp, productive in the preseason for us, and that's our job to try and get him the football and see what he can do with the ball in his hands. So
it's probably easier said than done, but what does that come down to? Just calling a play for him, or like designing things for him?
We had a couple of things in the game for him this past week in LA, and the game kind of went a certain way where we had to help with the protection, and obviously he plays a big part in that in terms of on the edge and things like of that nature. And sometimes the ball finds you, sometimes it doesn't. You saw Hoop catch a ball on a play and get 9 yards, and then we had a chance in the first quarter to hit Michael down the seam, and we threw it to Tay, and so there were a couple opportunities for him to get the football. Wasn't in there on a few of those. We went to Hoop, and then, but yeah, I think both Hooper and him have done a good job in practicing the passing game, and they definitely deserve that opportunity to get the ball in the game. We got to do a better job of getting them involved.
That was Mick Lombardi, who is now the 49ers quarterbacks coach, on Michael Mayer, the young tight end of the Raiders, who was reportedly on the trading block. And the main thing that Lombardi was talking about there was that the Raiders really valued Mayer as a run blocker. This guy, when he came out of Notre Dame just 2 years ago, there was real hype about his ability to be an adaptable tight end. And we know that the 49ers require adaptable tight ends. They don't just take guys who can just catch and do nothing else. But in fact, they require adaptable receivers as well. But a tight end, it is essentially important to be able to block. And Mayer was a blocker first for the Raiders. But you put on some of the tape. First of all, it's funny, from 2023, his rookie season, the quarterback was Jimmy Garoppolo. So you watch, and they're running some 49er-style concepts with Mayer off of play action, and he can move. I think the 40 was 4.7, which isn't terrible. It's not George Kittle, who was a 4.5, but he can move after the catch. He's got good body control. There were a couple times that he went up and grabbed a pass in the end zone over a safety where you say, okay, well, you need that red zone threat from your tight end position. And I think immediately Michael Mayer would be the 49ers' second best tight end. Right now, Braden Willis is tight end 2 on this football team. But they've been looking to augment George Kittle for years and years and years with a dependable tight end 2, somebody who could block and also catch the ball. And Michael Mayer, on his rookie contract, might not cost all too much. I mean, he caught 27 passes for 304 yards his rookie season. Last year, where he did miss a few games due to the personal issue, he was at 21 catches for 156 yards. So he wasn't nearly as productive in his second year, but that was also the year where he was phased out by Brock Bowers, the rookie sensation for the Raiders. So that's why the Raiders, under a new regime, are looking to move on from Michael Mayer. They're going to see if they can get a draft pick for him, and he would come at a very cheap cap cost of only about $1.4 million for an acquiring team. So I absolutely expect the 49ers to be interested in Michael Mayer. Would it cost the 5th-round draft pick that they just received for Deebo Samuel? Maybe. And maybe that's worth it for San Francisco to get a proven tight end, because so many times this team has tried to bring in somebody else, on the cheap. So either through a draft pick, and I get it, draft picks can't necessarily be considered cheap. The 3rd-round pick that they used on Cam Latu, and then they used the 6th-rounder on Braden Willis, but it's cheap when it comes to salary structure, right? Those aren't going to cost a lot against the cap. So they've tried that. They've tried to bring in budget veterans, guys that usually have some sort of issue to be able to get them at a lower price. Jordan Reed had the availability issue, and then, of course, he ended up getting hurt with the 49ers, even though he was impressive over his short stint with the team. So it's been tough sledding for San Francisco. It hadn't been for lack of trying. They've tried to bring in tight end after tight end to pair with George Kittle, but they just can't seem to get that tight end 2 who truly allows them to tax a defense in new ways. So this, with Michael Mayer, could be worth sending a draft pick over to the Raiders because you would be getting something of an established commodity, right? And the fact that he can block, he's got nice hands. Again, coming out of Notre Dame a couple years ago, this was a first-round projection, ended up being a high second-round pick for the Raiders. The fact that he wasn't the first-round pick means that the contract is more advantageous right now. I would expect other teams to be interested in Mayer, but the 49ers, with their dependence on tight ends, probably will be near the top of the list. I think there's obviously going to be interest in this case. It makes a whole lot of sense for San Francisco. And you just heard Mick Lombardi talking about Michael Mayer. That makes for a good coaching connection from the 49ers to this young tight end of the Las Vegas Raiders. This show is brought to you by Public Rec. Public Rec, they're the makers of the Game Changer pants, the pants that you could wear to a board meeting, but you could also wear around laying around on the couch at home. They are game changers because they are so versatile, maybe a little bit like Michael Mayer, who can block and he could give you a little threat in that play action game. Comfortable enough for the couch, sharp enough for the city. For a limited time, you can get 20% off at Public Rec by using the code Lombardi at checkout. Just head to publicrec.com, use the code Lombardi, and you're all set. Oh, and when they ask you how you found them, be sure to mention our show. It really helps us out. Upgrade to Public Rec and feel the difference. Next step right now is talking about Tariq Owens. Yes, this is the son of T.O. Tim Kawakami, my colleague at the San Francisco Standard, was writing a little bit about the aftermath of the Deebo Samuel trade yesterday. And one of the names that he talked about, because he mentioned that the 49ers feel good about a lot of their young receivers, was Tariq Owens. I know that this will draw intrigue just because of the name. He's T.O.'s son. And you know what? He's followed his dad's trajectory early in his career in a rather interesting way. T.O. was a basketball player first. Then he started playing football, but he was a late bloomer on the football field. 49ers were able to pick him up in the third round way back in the late 1990s. Dwight Clark was actually a big champion of Terrell Owens when they picked him in the third round. But he was a raw prospect early on. Even more raw is his son, Tariq Owens, who last year, when he first showed up, and this was an off-season program, so he came as an undrafted free agent out of a super small school. When he first showed up, I mean, he was a rough prospect. There were a lot of drops that didn't look like he had the movement fully down. Didn't look like a fish out of water on an NFL field. But we understand the pedigree when we understand the developmental course of his dad, who also had a rough time early in his career. I still remember the game that made Terrell Owens T.O. That was the catch-2 against the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round of the playoffs, January 1999. There were 3 or 4 drops and a fumble in that game from T.O. And then he caught the pass that made him T.O. So I should say there were 3 drops and a fumble for Terrell Owens, and then there was the perfect pass from Steve Young. You know who Steve Young stumbled over on that pass to Terrell Owens? He stumbled over his own center's foot. Well, this is a 49ers family connection if there ever was one. He stumbled over Chris Dalman's foot. I just realized that right now. I'm coming up with this stuff on the fly. This is why you guys watch. Chris Dalman was the center. Young stumbles over his foot, finds Terrell Owens, and Terrell Owens becomes T.O. The 49ers beat the Packers. Anyway, we're going to talk about the next step for Tariq Owens right now and hope that he doesn't stumble like Steve Young did over the leg of Chris Dalman on that play. Tariq last year, he was so raw, so rough to begin his tenure. Even the start of training camp wasn't good. I mean, I was like tallying up the drop passes for Tariq Owens. But then all of a sudden, something happened. Toward the back half of training camp, Tariq Owens started making big plays. So in one-on-ones, streak patterns, this guy, I mean, he was running like the wind, wide open. He would hold it in, bolt off to the end zone. It started happening in team drills as well. It never happened against the first team defense. He was too low on the pecking order to be playing a lot against the ones during the training camp team drills, but he would get a chance against veteran cornerbacks like Rock Ya-Sin when one-on-ones, and he was starting to win consistently and make flash plays on an almost daily basis. Then came a hand fracture, like a small fracture in his hand, and the 49ers waived Tariq Owens with an injury designation, but that allowed them to bring him back to their practice squad so he could be with the team for the 2024 season after he healed. And according to many people, Tariq Owens really impressed them on the practice squad behind the scenes this past season. So just worth mentioning because, of course, we know the pedigree, we know the lineage here, and the 49ers didn't just bring him in because he is T.O.'s son. They brought him in because they believe that there is some raw potential here that can be tapped, and I think that there were encouraging signs last year. So one player who we're going to keep close track of this offseason is Tariq Owens. And on that note, another player we're going to keep track of, especially over the course of the next week to 2 weeks until he signs a new contract, wherever it may be, is Drew Dalman. This is the single player whom I'm asked about the most. Literally, like if between emails, tweets. By the way, speaking of tweets, when you're building your own 49ers roster up on the standard, you could sign Drew Dalman. And then what you need to do, I know tweet is an old word, like an X post, I guess it is. I want you to take a screenshot of your finished roster. So you can zoom out, take a screenshot, and send it to me. The winners are going to get honored, or there's going to be a winner. There's going to be an Internet GM of the Year. That's going to be announced a little bit later this week. So send me your rosters. But look, you could go down here and you can sign Drew Dalman at the center position right there. Here's Drew Dalman. Boom. Signed him. Maybe I could zoom in on this so you guys can see a little bit closer. Ryan Kelly, Drew Dalman, Coleman Shelton, Bradley Bozeman, Matt Hennessy. So I have Dalman coming in at $16 million. That's my estimate. That would be pricey, right? 49ers have Jake Brendel right now, accounting for 6.5 against the cap. If they moved on from Jake Brendel, which if they signed Dalman, they would move on. It'd be like moving on from Daniel Kilgore to Weston Richburg. Then you'd cut Brendel this way. I think that the 49ers like Jake Brendel more than fans do. That's my sense from just what I've gathered, information that I've gathered over time, listening to Chris Furster talk about Jake Brendel. But I also realize that if there is a position offensively where the 49ers have gone out and made a true free agent splash along the line under Kyle Shanahan, it has been center. So you go back to 2018, they signed Weston Richburg. They had Daniel Kilgore under contract at the time. They might have even had just re-signed Daniel Kilgore, but then they signed Weston Richburg to a lot of money. 2021, Alex Mack. I mean, center is really, really important to Kyle Shanahan. This goes back to him having Alex Mack in Cleveland in 2014. And then Shanahan was obviously part of the lobbying effort for the Falcons to sign Alex Mack in 2016. And then Shanahan brought in Mack himself to the 49ers in 2021. So center is really important. Jake Brendel, I think it's really important to be fair to Jake Brendel. I've tried to be as fair as possible over the years because this is a more complicated evaluation than a lot of people make it out to be. He was a legitimate diamond in the rough who the 49ers started into 2022 and played damn well for them in that 2022 season. You rank number 5 or number 6 in pass blocking efficiency. That efficiency has definitely dipped over the course of the past couple of years. So there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think I was most critical during the game against the Miami Dolphins this year, where Brendel just didn't pick up. Calais Campbell coming around on that inside stunt maneuver, and Brock Purdy got drilled and threw the interception that essentially ended the game. I mean, the 49ers needed better recognition from the interior line. Then there's the whole question of, okay, what are centers doing as far as run blocking in Kyle Shanahan's scheme? Because there do seem to be very stringent demands from Furster, from Shanahan on what the centers need to do athletically. The reach block, they need to get up to the second level very quickly. And one reason that Jake Brendel excelled early in his time with the 49ers is one of the more athletic centers out there. He came out of UCLA at like 290 pounds years ago, 2016. He went to the Miami Dolphins first, and The relative athletic score for Jake Brendel was literally a 9.9. He was one of the most athletic guys that we'd seen. But the question was, is he heavy enough to be able to withstand power rushers at the NFL level? And early in his tenure with the 49ers, Jake Brendel was more than solid. I mean, he replaced Alex Mack from 2021 to 2022. And again, the pass blocking efficiency was good. I think that the play has regressed over the course of the past couple of years. And I cannot ignore the fact that center has been very frequently a big money position for Kyle Shanahan. I go back to the Richburg signing, and then Mack didn't cost as much, but it was still a big signing for the 49ers that they made on the same night that they picked up Trent Williams. It was about 4 years ago. It was March of 2021. So then we talk about Dalman, and we look at how this guy's developed in his 4 NFL seasons. He came out of Stanford, super good relative athletic score. I mean, this is a very, very athletic center who has always been a good run blocker. We expected him to be a good run blocker coming out of Stanford because of the athleticism. His dad's training obviously rubbed off on Drew Dalman. But where he took the biggest strides this past season in the contract year with Atlanta was in pass protection. Drew Dalman is now a top 5 center in this league. I couldn't say the same thing about him over the course of his first 3 years. But he is now a top 5 center. The pass protection has emerged into, I think, a top 6, top 7 level. Combine that with run blocking, which has been in the top 5 throughout. And I've talked to Chris about this, Chris Dalman. I've talked to Drew himself about this. There is such a cool connection to the 49ers past through this family. And it's not just through Chris Dalman playing for Bob McKittrick, who loved the more athletic offensive linemen, and Chris Dalman playing for Steve Young, and understanding the nuances of the center position and the cerebral responsibilities that it has. It also goes through Alex Gibbs, who's the offensive line coach for Mike Shanahan and the Denver Broncos, who pioneered a lot of this outside zone stuff. Chris Dalman, after he coached the 49ers, or after he played for the 49ers, entered the coaching world. And one of his coaching stops was in Atlanta as an assistant offensive line coach. And Alex Gibbs was a consultant on the staff there. So he got a lot of coaching football education on the Shanahan style of zone blocking that he later passed down to his son. And the Shanahan style of zone blocking was obviously very related to what Bob McKittrick himself implemented with the 49ers when Chris Dalman was a player in the 1990s. So the familial ties here are really awesome. And I think that's why people are so intrigued by this. I mean, Drew Dalman's a good center, but it's not just about good center. It's about how it just makes sense as a puzzle piece. That being said, as you can see in my roster builder, it would not come cheap to bring Drew Dalman aboard. And since it would not come cheap, I don't think that it's likely, but I would never rule it out with Kyle Shanahan. The reason that I'm talking about this is that the latest is that Atlanta likely won't be able to re-sign Drew Dalman. And when the existing team probably won't be able to re-sign him, well, then you could probably start ruling out other teams being able to re-sign him. I will say that the 49ers move toward cost efficiency does not preclude them from making big deals. They just want really cost-efficient deals. So maybe they'll determine that Drew Dalman falls into that bucket. I personally would argue that center is the position where you can get a ton of efficiency because it's like a rising tide that lifts all boats. You can make your entire offensive line better just through that center position. Like it's so much more. I keep on using the word efficient, but I think I'm gonna have to use it again. It's so much more of a sure thing to be able to do that through the center position than anywhere else, because center is at the very middle of the line. Center is setting the protections. Center is reading the safety rotation. So center can directly take problems off of Brock Purdy's plate with the way that the communication structure and the scheme works. And center can directly make other offensive linemen better. On top of that, center is being asked to physically accomplish things in this scheme that other schemes are not asking the center to do. And on top of all that, you've got some great interior pass rushers. There's a proliferation of those in the NFL. Well, if your center can pass block, that's a cheat code as well. And maybe it's a mandatory thing as well. I mean, you saw the Chiefs pick up Creed Humphrey through the draft. That's helped them big time. The Eagles have had really good center play, moving from Jason Kelsey to Cam Jurgens. It's been really important for them. Those are the two teams that were in the Super Bowl this past season. I think it's mandatory to have plus center play. That's me. We'll see how the 49ers feel. I do know that Drew Dalman's expensive, and you have to, keep your expectations realistic. And that is why I do encourage you to check this out. The 49ers roster builder, the 49ers build your own roster, is available now. The link is in the description. Make sure you check it out. If you're on X, go ahead and just click on the link there. This is the perfect reason to go sign up for the San Francisco Standard. Nobody else is doing this kind of stuff, guys. We're doing it at the Standard. We're doing it on this YouTube channel, the Standard, obviously. We're in a partnership. We're putting out content that you could actually interact with, instead of just talking about who you want to sign. Why don't you actually sign those players? Why don't we actually see if that fits within the 49ers salary cap? I think that's the way to do it. So that is available for you on the Standard, and the link is in the description. So here's another one. DJ Reed. The Jets are not expected to re-sign him. I know I talked about this at the top of the show. So DJ was drafted in the 5th round. I'm about to shout out to the Central Valley again, where, if the 49ers bring back DJ Reed, I'm going to drive down or fly to Bakersfield, and we're going to find, I think he went to Stockdale. Let's see what high school DJ Reed went to. I'll look this up. We're going to go to the In-N-Out Burger nearest DJ Reed's high school. No, he went to Independence. I apologize to Independence High School, because I'm sure that there's some alums of Independence High School in Bakersfield watching this show. But he went to Independence in Bakersfield. So we're going to go to the In-N-Out Burger nearest Independence High School. We're going to do a show from there, because we do shows from In-N-Out Burgers up and down the Central Valley. That's become a little bit of a theme here. But DJ went to Independence in Bakersfield. Then he went to Fresno State in 2014, Cerritos Junior College down in Southern California in 2015, Kansas State after that, and drafted by the 49ers, pick number 142 of the 2018 NFL draft. The 49ers loved DJ Reed. This is one of their biggest regrets. They let him go thinking they'd be able to sign him back in 2020. That was a miserable year for the 49ers. They let him go because he was hurt. So they waived him with an injury designation, thinking that nobody else would pick him up and they'd just be able to sign him back to the roster, somebody who's hurt. And they weren't able to do it. While they were undergoing this maneuver, the Seattle Seahawks swooped in and poached DJ Reed. Obviously, the rest has been history. He was really good for the Seattle Seahawks in 2020 and 2021, finishing up his rookie deal. The Seahawks got that essentially for free. And then he signed for fairly big money with the New York Jets. And he's been with the Jets over the course of the past 3 seasons. Well, that contract is expiring, and the Jets are not expected to retain DJ Reed. That means that Robert Saleh, who's coached him for 2 teams, is likely going to have a chance to initiate a reunion, at least encourage the 49ers front office to initiate a reunion. If we go back to the build your roster, we can look at the cornerback position. You have the ability to sign DJ Reed. Of course you do. If you do that, you select his name. He might cost $13 million, guys. Now, maybe they can work the cap hit to be less than $10 million, but my point is that DJ Reed is going to be one of the pricier cornerbacks on free agency. Michael Jackson, Byron Murphy Jr., Carlton Davis, Paulson Adebo's there. I think Adebo might be a cheaper option, former Stanford cornerback. But this is the case of the 2 DJs, DJ Jones and DJ Reed. DJ Jones is also a possibility, especially if you move on from some of these defensive linemen. So say you don't want Jordan Elliott anymore. You cut Jordan Elliott, Go down here, select DJ Jones. I think he'll cost $8 million this year. If you could bring back both of the DJs, how happy would that make Robert Saleh? How happy would it make you? You guys can give me a thumbs up in the comment section if you want to see both of the DJs back, DJ Reed and DJ Jones. I think versatility is everything now in the defensive backfield. In fact, you'll notice that in the roster builder, I used to have a nickelback position. I used to have cornerbacks and I used to have nickelbacks. I did away with that. I scrapped that. Why? Because Diamondo Lenore can play both nickelback and cornerback, and he plays both inside and outside. Renato Green, the 49ers' second corner, was first trained at nickelback last offseason after they drafted him out of Florida State, and then he ended up playing outside. They cross-trained him to play both inside and outside. Darrell Luter Jr., they believe he could play inside and outside. Guess who was the first guy to do that for the 49ers? Right here, DJ Reed, inside and outside. So inside corners are typically shorter because you need more short area quickness, but you want short stature with long arms so you can still do what the outside cornerbacks can do as far as blocking the catch radius. So there is no more nickel cornerback, at least with the way that the 49ers play. And I think this is starting to really take it, its hold over the rest of the league. There's just cornerbacks, and they better be able to play inside and they better be able to play outside. Cooper Kupp, who was so great, broke all those records in 2021. Cooper Kupp lined up 62% of the time as a slot receiver. And he was the best receiver on the field. There was no question that he was the best receiver on the field in 2021. But he primarily lined up inside. There had been this stereotype, and it wasn't just a stereotype. It was just the way that offenses ran in the game over the course of decades, that slot receivers weren't as good as outside receivers, that your slot guy was a little bit more limited. And because of that, you put him on the inside. And I think coaches over time, especially guys like Shanahan, just said, why? McVay coached Cooper Kupp. Like, why limit the slot position? Why not move your best receiver into the inside? Because what defenses are doing is that they're putting worse cornerbacks, nickel cornerbacks on the inside to cover the inside guy. You get better matchups just because people are stubborn in this game. So you've seen these adaptable offenses, and not just inside outside receiver. It's stuff like George Kittle lining up everywhere, Deebo Samuel doing multiple different things. You're able to disguise and create mismatches that didn't used to exist because everybody was so damn stale. Well, offenses have really picked up the pace. They've really diversified over the course of the past several seasons, and defenses now are having to play catch up. And that's why I have eliminated the nickel cornerback position, because I think that defenses and cornerbacks have to be able to play everywhere. And that's how the 49ers are drafting. And that's how the 49ers are looking for players in free agency. They want them to be able to play everywhere. So I think that adding DJ Reed would give the 49ers surefire inside-out adaptability. And then how hard is it to attack the defense if you don't know where each cornerback is going to be? You can't pick a specific weakness. You can't say, like Richard Sherman was never going to play slot cornerback for the 49ers, right? That was an outside guy with his size, his frame. You can't do stuff. You can't mix and match as an offense with your formations, with your alignments. You can't mix and match in a way that exposes a weakness at a certain part of the field if the defense is as amorphous as the offense is. So with these offenses breaking the huddle in ways that defenses are having a hard time reacting to, the best way for Robert Saleh's unit to counteract that is to have personnel that is as versatile as possible. Oh, we've got news. Cowboys and Osa Odigizua reached agreement today on a 4-year, $80 million deal that includes $58 million guaranteed and a $20 million signing bonus for the star defensive tackle. So on the surface there, 4 years, $80 million is $20 million APY. $58 million total guarantees. I don't know what the full guarantees are, but $20 million APY for Osa Odigizua, who was part of this roster builder, and I got his cap hit about right. I said about $16 million on the cap hit at $20 million APY. I'm guessing the cap hit will be about $16 million. So we can take Osa Odigizua off of our roster sheet here. I acquired both Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa just for fun. If I also acquired Osa Digazua, that is another big cap hit. $80 million over 4 years. So the best part about the build your roster is that I am going to continuously update it. So I'm going to take off Osa Digazua. You won't be able to sign him any longer, but that was the initial version of it, and we now have a signing. The franchise tag deadline is coming up a little bit later today at 1 p.m. Pacific time. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time right now. So the franchise tag deadline is going to spur a lot of movement today on the contract front as teams are either going to get something done there, or they're going to try to get something done when it comes to a longer term deal. Of course, the legal tampering window opens on Monday. So if the Cowboys hadn't re-signed Osa Odigizua today, like right now, then Monday is when other teams would have been able to start talking to him. 4 years ago, Trent Williams, we were all wondering if the 49ers were going to re-sign Trent. Obviously, they didn't yet at this point. The legal tampering window opened. He did not re-sign with the 49ers until Wednesday, which is next Wednesday, the start of the new league year, that night. So the Chiefs were fully able to flirt with Trent Williams and offer him their deal, and Trent was deciding between the 49ers and the Chiefs. Ultimately, he picked San Francisco. So if you want to re-sign your own guys, you don't have competition right now. For the 49ers, the big name is Dre Greenlaw. John Lynch said at the Combine last week that he hopes that they can re-sign Dre Greenlaw before free agency opens. But it is incumbent on Greenlaw as well to sign on the dotted line. It's not just a one-sided thing. So if Greenlaw signs on the dotted line before free agency starts, the 49ers won't have competition for him. But if he doesn't want to sign on the dotted line, then he's going to get the benefit of free agency. It makes most sense in typical scenarios for players to go out and test the market, especially somebody like Dre Greenlaw. The market is so muddled on him, right? I think that maybe the NFL Combine started to give us a little bit of an indication because there's conversations that happen there behind the scenes. But until teams are actually allowed to make their offers to these players, and that's when the legal tampering window comes in and free agency comes in, that player is probably not going to have 100% certain idea of his worth. So if he doesn't want to be left saying, what if money is important, and it should be to these guys, I mean, come on, like you're doing this as your career. I think it'd be important to anybody if they had a chance to be in the NFL. Unless you want to be sitting there saying, what if, you probably will want to extend this into free agency, especially in a situation that is as ambivalent as Dre Greenlaw's. Mike asks me, are the Cowboys going to be able to pay Micah Parsons? Dallas has such an interesting cap approach. They front-loaded Dak Prescott's contract. I mean, you've got like an $84 million cap hit in year 2. It's basically the opposite of how the 49ers have operated. They've backloaded all these deals. And, I explain a lot of that in the Build Your Roster. Could open that up again here. I just love the graphic they made. Good job on the graphic. But we talk about a lot of how the 49ers operate cap-wise. And it's funny because, and by the way, when you go to the Build Your Roster, you're going to click here. You're going to click on Create a Copy. And then you can just make your own copy. It's easy 2-click method. And then the roster is going to pop up and you could start building your team. You can add Aaron Rodgers if you want, Russell Wilson. I mean, you could go crazy with it. I gave you guys a lot of optionality. Anyway, I'm going to go back to what I was saying, though, about the 49ers and their cap approach. My editors wanted me to delve into this a little bit more just to explain things. And I think that that was actually a very good exercise for me. I'm going to open it up and we're going to go through this. This should help you understand how the 49ers are operating financially, and it could make you understand or help you understand the Deebo Samuel maneuver for San Francisco as far as cap space works. So read along here with me. In recent years, the 49ers have structured every big contract in a way that uses bonus prorations available thanks to a handy NFL accounting rule to push the majority of salary cap impact into future years when the cap is expected to be larger. Because the cap is tied to annual skyrocketing league revenue. Over just the past 2 years, the salary cap has grown by $54.4 million, or 24.1%. The roster builder assumes the 49ers will continue employing this amortization technique, which is the NFL version of taking out a zero-interest loan. Why wouldn't you push cap hits back if you have the ability to do so? So that's why you can use the roster builder to give Purdy a huge extension at a cap hit of only $15 million for 2025. So to illustrate that, here's Brock Purdy, cap hit of only $15 million for the extension. So he's at $5.2 million right now. Move it to $15 million to extend him. But in doing so, you must simultaneously realize that all money the 49ers pay Purdy will have to eventually hit the salary cap. And backloading will cause it to hit heavier in future years. So you've got to be ready for the future if you're the 49ers. Therefore, it's vital for you as the 49ers GM in this exercise and for John Lynch and Parag Marathe to constantly budget for the future. Here's the key rule that I think a lot of people have not been understanding, and I've seen this misinformation, this misconception on Twitter time and time again. Unused salary cap space carries over from season to season. So that's why the 49ers don't mind absorbing all of Deebo Samuel's remaining $31.5 million cap hit now, this year. Because even if it takes more space this season, it's going to cause them to have more space in future seasons. You're going to have to take the dead money hit no matter what. Dead money just doesn't materialize out of thin air. Dead money is what you've already paid a player that's going to have to hit the cap, no questions asked. So they absorbed all of the hit now because they traded him. They didn't release him with a post-June 1st designation. They wanted the draft capital. Right decision for the 49ers. And they absorbed the dead money now because they have like $60 million in space this year. So you can take on the bigger hit this season. No questions asked about that either. Then in future years, they're going to have a little bit more, and they've got to think of this as a long-term game. So that's why this roster building exercise asks you to leave at least $20 million in salary cap space when all is said and done. So I'm going to encourage all of you to go to the description, go and build your own rosters, and then tweet them at me, at Lombardi himself. The winner wins Internet GM of the Year. Internet GM of the Year will be honored on the San Francisco Standard and on this show at some point later this week. And if you want to come on camera, maybe we'll arrange for that too. Maybe we'll have Internet GM of the Year interviewed with their roster on the show. So again, to be able to do that, you have to go to the description and you have to click the link. You could go to my X, click the link to the roster builder. I'm going to retweet it here in a second as soon as I get off of the show. And you're going to get this cool little graphic up on the San Francisco Standard. And we'll get you on board. We'll get you on board on a show. We'll interview you live here on YouTube. Think it'd be a lot of fun. But I got to pick you as the winner. You got to win the Internet GM of the Year. So this is going to be your opportunity up on the Standard. All right. Any questions? Mike is tossing the eyeballs up there. There he is. Invader 49er might build a really, really good roster. I could see him building a really good one. This guy has smart comments on the show. So Liam saying match the Eagles and the Rams. Ooh, this is a good one. Add Tariq Owens. Yeah, I'll add Tariq Owens. That's good feedback right now. I'll go in there and I'll add Tariq Owens. Here's the link. I set the cap price. It's my best guess. I've done it every year. Matt Barrows went back when I was with the Athletic, helped me with that, but it's a lot of guesswork. The point, this is like an exercise, right? This is the best compliment that I've gotten for this has been that my boss is mad at me because I've been addicted to building the 49ers roster and I'm not getting any work done. So this is, it's a fun time suck. Let's call it that. But I set the prices there and I do my best. If you see something that is like tremendously far off, let me know. I might see the message, I might not, and I'll try to make it better. But I think that I set a decent price system for the 49ers. Here's a question. Thanks for this. I appreciate it. Are the Niners liable for any of Deebo's contract this year in Washington? Nope. It was a complete salary dump. The 49ers saved $17.5 million. So the option bonus, $15.4 million, turned into base salary, all off the 49ers books, goes to Washington. The base salary of about $1.2 million on top of that all goes to Washington. And I think about, I want to say $650,000, $750,000 of bonus money in the contract all goes to Washington. It adds up to $17.5 million, and Washington is on the hook for it and not the 49ers. Good question. Appreciate that very much. All right, guys. There is no new cap hit whatsoever for Deebo Samuel. So the dead money is money the 49ers already paid him that was set to hit the cap regardless. It was going to hit in 2026. It was scheduled to hit next season. By trading him, the 49ers took the money that was scheduled to hit in 2026 and just moved it this year. So it all hits this year, but the space is interconnected. It's like if you don't use space this season, it all transfers over to next season. What they did in the larger sum of things is they took $17.5 million, shipped it off to Washington along with Deebo Samuel, and that's history. Their books are going to now be free of Deebo Samuel and his contract moving into the future. And they get a 5th-round draft pick. So what the 49ers are doing, they're opening a bunch of money for 2026 and beyond. Yes, exactly. Through Javon Hargrave, opening money. Eric Armstead, opening money. Kyle Juszczyk's pay cut last year, opening money. Appreciate everybody. I have to go. You guys should be going to build your own roster right now. This is what everybody should be doing. So thank you, and we will talk to you very soon.